It's probably time we had a proper chat about the manager and just how much pressure Arne Slot is under. Because ultimately, the answer to that question is a lot all of the time because he's Liverpool manager. However, I feel like it's probably time now for serious conversations from a fan perspective, maybe beyond that as well, about his position and just where we're going, how he's getting us there, if he can get us there. His decision making's coming into question, and again, that comes with the territory of being Liverpool manager, but it also comes with the territory of having disappointing results. And today was probably as bad as it gets in terms of results this season. Therefore, I feel like it's time, Errol, to talk about Arne Slot, Liverpool Football Club manager. Is that fair?
Okay. No, I think it's fair. I think we're a forum where we listen to the feedback and the opinions of not just everybody in the room here, the production team, the fans online. We hear it, we're at the forefront of that. So sometimes, there is the expectation that we have the ability to have difficult conversations, and it's a conversation that no Liverpool fan wants to have with a big smile on the face by any means, but it is one now where it is slowly and surely becoming the elephant in the room, and it is Arne Slot's ability to get the best out of this embarrassment of riches that we've got in terms of the personnel and quality that is in and around this Liverpool team and Slot. Look, I want to preface this by saying last season was incredible. What you was able to do, the calm and nature. We've been very emotional over the years prior, and the way that you was able to continue Liverpool and send them on the direction of travel of being built towards success was honourable. It was fantastic, and I think you got all of your plaudits. I think a lot of people towards the back end of the season low-key wanted to give you so many flowers for the way that you handled yourself throughout the course of the season, and you had massive shoes to fill in Jurgen Klopp leaving. However, this summer you've been given the war chest, you've been given the tools, you've been given the resources, and now we are sat in November where it is pretty much mathematically at a point where we're not going to win the Premier League again. In some contexts, people may have been able to accept that in some walks of life. However, it's the manner in which you defend your title as defending champions, and I will go back to that lineup today where you choose to refuse to play one of your better players and one of your better performers so far this season out of his best position, so he doesn't actually feature where he plays best. We're no longer playing to his strengths and then asking him to play in a role that is still quite unfamiliar to him, I think does a massive disservice. And again, it probably sends a message to the rest of the team because the lads are probably desperate for Szoboszlai to be in the midfield. There are so many holes at this moment in time, and so often are Liverpool predictable and susceptible in certain ways to certain tactics, whether it be set pieces, whether it be corners, whether it be individual errors that other teams just absolutely lap up and thrive on. The way that we set up the teams encourage sides to feel that they can get at this Liverpool team at this particular moment in time. I do believe that this manager right here is under an immense amount of pressure. If there was ever a time where the hierarchy at Liverpool Football Club need to take stock and need to really start to have some really difficult and challenging conversations about how this season now can still be pushed towards any semblance of success, him being the focal point of that is going to definitely be on the agenda. At this point, it would be negligible if they didn't have that thought process going through their head. There are still options available to Liverpool Football Club in terms of how they operate, how they choose to show their backing of Slot, or they choose to back this side. But those questions do need to be asked, and unfortunately, it is a you're messing from my perspective. We don't often do that for a manager, but if I had to put him anywhere and stake a claim to what he's done for us so far to this point this season, it's been a massive amount of you messing, because there have been individual mistakes, there have been players underperforming, but at the heart of it all, and he even said it and alluded to it, he is solely responsible and he takes the weight of that responsibility. And as the manager, when things aren't going right, fans, players, people are going to look and turn to you. And the last I will say before I pass it back over to yourself, Dan, for you to give your take on it is, you could feel hard done to at half-time to go in 1-0 down. You'd played a little bit better. It looked like there was a bit of a game plan. You just didn't have the clinical edge to get yourselves in front. McAllister had a couple of big moments early on and we just couldn't find the back of the net. I thought Forest played really well defensively, got it absolutely spot on. However, whatever message you've given your lads at half-time, within the space of 45 seconds, it has gone in one ear and completely out the other because they have absolutely failed to rise to the challenge that you set to them in that dressing room. And that, to me, is the biggest red flag for Arne Slot at the moment. That is where we're in trouble. Because if he is trying to get a reaction out of his players, and that is the way that they respond, that is the way that they react, yes, there is something seriously wrong and something needs to change. What that looks like, I am not the oracle. I am not the all-knowing, all-seeing Liverpool fan that has got the $1 million idea that is going to fix our season by any means, and I'll never profess to be that individual. But there are smarter, more football-y savvy people in and around this football club that know something fundamental has to change, and there are only a handful of fixes at this point that can usher in that change. But for me, I am starting to get really worried because I've been saying for a couple of weeks, even though the form's been indifferent, there is still a bigger picture. That bigger picture that I've been pushing people towards to remain positive and think of, I am slowly starting to think we are getting into serious territory now where even the bigger picture could start to be impacted and the season as a whole could be derailed and unravel right before our eyes. And that is the last thing as a Liverpool fan that I want. So I implore people to we can be emotional because we're fans, but try to allow the club to come to the right decision without us trying to overly vocalise it and force their hand. They will know, they will have their cut-off point, they will have the straw that breaks their back at some point. They will need to figure out what that looks like and how we respond accordingly in order to maintain some level of unity amongst the squad, because you're never going to make every single player and every single fan happy with the difficult decisions that may need to be made. But something for the betterment of Liverpool Football Club needs to happen in the next 6 weeks, and I don't know at this moment in time what that looks like. I'll be honest when I say that.
No, I listen, that last point is absolutely right as well. I don't think anything's off the table for what it's worth on that, and how Liverpool act next will be fascinating, and it may well just be they stick with their guy and they allow him to work through it and they give him a little bit more time, or whatever, in whatever shape or form Liverpool decides is the best next move. We'll obviously back it and we'll sort of power on through it. But you said it earlier on to me, there's a chance, and the showing in the second half was evidence of this in many ways, that if he hasn't already, he might be on the cusp of losing the dressing room, and there's no coming back from that, really. I think that is that really, when it comes to any managerial position. I think it does become untenable when that happens anywhere in the world, not just at Liverpool. But yeah, he has taken responsibility again. I've just seen some of his post-match comments there, and he alludes to the fact that he tried a couple of things that didn't work, and that to me has been one of the biggest shifts in many ways from last season to this. It felt like, and we said it earlier on the stream, like everything he did last season turned to gold. He made little minute tweaks and changes here and there, personnel changes. And the start of this season, that was true a little bit as well. He'd make a sub, they'd come on, he had that Midas touch, they'd come on, be the match winner. Like everything he did worked. Yeah. But all of a sudden, that just seems to have gone.
Evaporated.
It's just have gone completely from him.
And I said this in comms before, and again, people in the comments let me know if I'm completely wrong in saying this, but after the season where we went to the last game of every competition, I think it's 2021, 2022, Liverpool looked brilliant, and it was a little bit unfortunate to only walk away with 2 out of the 4 trophies that season. But I think we went into the next season feeling as though we know we are absolute mustard. We know we're brilliant as a team. We just need to turn up any given game and we'll beat whoever's in front of us. And Liverpool quite quickly got their noses bloodied that following season and realised it was a very quick drop down to earth, that actually no teams are going to find new ways to attack you, find new ways to overcome some of your brilliance. And if you do not earn the right to play and be in the game, teams will take those moments away from you. And that was a lot to do with the players. Didn't necessarily blame all of or bring all of the blame to Jurgen Klopp's door when that happened. And I'm starting to see something similar in Arne Slot. I think all of the flowers that he got back end of last season, the minute little changes that he made here and there, as you mentioned then, getting that Midas touch and having the ability to find solutions in game was impeccable for large parts of last season. But I think he's believes in his own sauce a little bit too much. Yes, the tactics, a lot of teams have changed in the style and their approach this season, but that's football. Football goes very cyclically. There are moments where teams will be a lot more ball playing out from the back. There'll be teams where people will go a lot more long and direct. But that's where variation, that's where adaptability and being a little bit flexible in your tactics really start to show who's got it in their locker. Look at what Pep Guardiola's had to do with his side this season. He doesn't have the ball playing Ederson no more. He's working with Donnarumma. He's going long. He's happy to provide the ball to Haaland. He's then changed two midfielders and turned them into fullbacks. He's had to tweak the system to be fit for where the Premier League is at right now. And Arne Slot just seems so reluctant. I don't know whether it is arrogance or whether it is just so stubborn that he has to play and set up in a particular way that he currently has put himself in these handcuffs where he's left himself in this situation. And I don't know if he just thinks my Liverpool team will go out there with the money that we've spent, we'll go out there and we'll absolutely roll over any team that's put in front of us. But it's just not going to work like that. And I think at some point, if fans are seeing it and we're realising it and we can scream some things that we would love to see as changes, I don't know why he, and the only thing that I can go back to is I think he believes in his own source too much and he is far too stubborn to let the outside noise influence him, which to a degree I accept. But internally, there have got to be smart people telling you some of similar things that we might, and they might word it better, they might frame it a little bit better than fans. That's their job to do so. But if they are and you're ignoring that, then you are ignoring it at your own peril because this cannot continue for much longer. Mark my words, as a Liverpool fan. We've been watching this club and supporting this club a lot longer than you've been on our manager's list or radar. So something's got to give.
Ultimately, it's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but when you've just witnessed what we've just witnessed at Anfield, fans talk with their feet, and by all accounts, I've already been sent some videos of Anfield being vacated quicker than usual prior to the final whistle, and understandably so, given what we did serve up, which wasn't particularly pretty. So yeah, it is time for that uncomfortable conversation, in my opinion. And in terms of, I just have one sort of final say on it. A few people have sort of suggested that maybe, because you just said it there, he is very stubborn, in my opinion. He believes in his philosophy and his way of playing, and that's all well and good. And he's clearly surrounded himself with people that he trusts, and you'd imagine they were best in class. Obviously, John Heitinga went out, and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst came in, and a lot of people have put stock and some weight in the fact that maybe that change has not helped matters. Who knows? But one of my biggest bugbears, one of the big concerns, actually, in terms of what we're witnessing more or less week in, week out at the minute, because the good performances have been few and far between, has been the repetition of mistakes and the repetition of ways in which teams have hurt us. Because you said that they're not particularly adaptable. And that's at both ends of the pitch for me. We concede similar goals all the time. And we have similar patterns of play, ineffective ones often as well, at the other end of the pitch a lot. We don't seem to have alternatives nor plan Bs at either end. And again, the repetition with which I've seen us score from second balls or set plays, it just hurts me at this point. And if I can see it and most fans can see it, Arne Slot's not stupid. The set piece thing, generally speaking, has been a real problem of mine for forever. Now, I don't think we're quite creative, inventive enough in attacking sense. We're clearly susceptible and vulnerable at the back. It's been the Achilles heel of ours all season long, and it just keeps happening and happening. And the amount of times we've had potential turning points where like an international break's come along at the right time and we should fix it, and then we come back and it's a bit more of the same. It's just, I'm at a loss, really, to sort of come up with reasons and explanations and viable excuses as to what we're witnessing now. Injuries don't come into it for me, non-starter. But that level of performance, some of the non-tracking and runners, some of the not putting a shift in, some of the non-negotiables not happening, is inexcusable, what we've seen today. The final point I'm making is something you raised to me earlier on about the finances around it and how FSG, what lens FSG will likely look at it from, if indeed they are looking at it. And that will boil down to the brass tacks. It will be, are we likely to qualify for the Champions League next season? As it stands, that's a big fat no. Therefore, the next conversation is, how do we fix that? And that might be where they end up at the manager conversation. But we'll wait and see.
That was a clip from the Player Ranking Show. If you'd like to check out the show in full in either video or podcast form, simply head to redmenplus.com.